they start in the urban, but he also says they finally end up going everywhere. So,
Yeah.
and that he says that when the city has a disaster, they come back better. They come back stronger from catastrophes. And so we can anticipate that, look forward to that, right? I also found that I found myself so much in dialogue with how we've been talked about the urban ever since we did the cultural studies course and talked about the urban revolution, touching everyone, and having that in dialogue with how he talks about the urban. Anyway, he says that urbanization is everywhere, and I really loved how he, in the second section, he laid out how, I think he has a really strong bias for living in the city, right? But
Yes.
he says that the most sustainable way to live on the earth. And he says, when you live in the city, you use less space, you use less water, electricity, you consume less of everything, he says, like energy and food. And he says there's less pollution and the transportation is cleaner and we recycle more. And frankly, I was a little bit in conversation with my brother-in-law this past Saturday, and I was trying to tell him about the urban, and he lives in the rural. And he is in deep, has a totally different understanding than this one. He wanted to argue with me, and it did argue with me. And so when he talked about the post-pandemic city, he said that I found it helpful that he also says that there are issues, the urban has. It actually, when you live in the urban, it illuminates the issues because the problems become clearer, like racism and inequality. But he also says that the cities are centers of ideas and innovation and action. And I thought it was interesting that he said that cities are the starting point of social activism.
Yeah.
And that'd be a great conversation to have at some time, wouldn't it? It was exciting when he talked about the model that Paris is starting to is working on, in terms of mayor working on having what she calls 15-minute cities. That you're 15 minutes from everything you need. And you've heard people talk about walkable communities and that kind of thing. I mean, I feel like I live in a 15-minute community right here in Uptown.
I do too, in Uptown Denver.
You do.
Yes.
So we're going to get into more of that as we get into groups. And then at the end, he said the purpose of cities is to make us into model human beings and citizens. So we're going to break now into 3 groups. And one group, Janice Sanders is going to lead that group in just a deeper reflection on this chapter. Just look at the chapter as a whole and maybe an emphasis on the last 2 sections. I don't know. We'll see, Jan, what you decide to do. And then Judith is going to lead another group, and she's going to take the imagery we had of the 5 cities and being a decisional city, which was our image, and have it be in dialogue with Fareed's image here, and maybe bring in other images, like some other people have talked about the images of the city in New York. So she's going to have dialogues of various images of what makes up a city. And I'm going to lead the 3rd group, and that's going to be a surprise. So when we come back, we will reveal the surprise.
Okay.
All right. So let's have the 3 groups.
All right, 2.
Breakout room 1. Join the breakout room.